computer and go to share. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to week 2 of 3 on the Apollo course, How to Shoot for the Moon. As you know, this is the course that follows up with Circle hosts as to how and why in the preparation for the big launch of your Circle once it's been running for a little while and you have some idea of what you're on or about. It might be helpful if you guys could mute yourselves so that we're not getting into any interference. That would be great. Thanks very much. Okay, so just a little reminder of what we did last time. Last time we did customer personas, and we remembered that what we need is some structure. We looked at some basic examples, and then I suggest that you choose one, which I think most of you have done. Don't forget, when you've done it, please share it in the Circle Leader Circle newsfeed. I know there are 3 done. I've seen them, and I know Karen has just posted hers with the rest of us watching. But if there's any more that needs to be got out there, let's do that now, please. The second thing was to let your imagination let rip and have fun in your own head. These people that these personas that you're creating, it's really useful if you really like them and know them deeply. So enjoy the process of making them up. And then finally, detail, the more the better. It sounds very silly, but it's probably the most common question I get asked in this part of this process is why the detail, and I hope we covered that on. But the more detail, the better. It makes your creative writing and people's affiliation to this persona much, much better. So what we're going to go through today is we're going to, I know some of you have seen this before, we're going to create your first marketing framework. And bear in mind, sorry, there's a couple of things that we just need to bear in mind. The first thing is that you do one marketing framework for one customer persona at this stage. You may have you may end up doing a number of marketing frameworks for the same customer persona where it specializes on different messaging or slightly different product areas or whatever. But for this exercise, have one marketing framework for one persona that you've created. Quite often, it's easier to do it in Post-its first. Get open a new packet of Post-it notes, find a big piece of white wall or on your kitchen table or whatever you want to do. But that's quite often quite a useful exercise to do first because you can move them about, change them up and down, saves you messing about with some form of electronic page. And then use the swipe files, the downloadable files that will be attached to this lesson. Not that you can go your marketing strategy session as this, but as in attached to the Apollo lesson 2 of 3 post that is going to come up after this. And then share your work by creating a post in the course newsfeed, as we just mentioned. Of course, this is a normal Guy Bucknell course, so there will be a task to do, a slight challenge to do at the end of it before we meet next week. So without further ado, we always kick this off with just a little reminder of a video that will talk us through Google's version of the moment of truth theory.
Marketers have been using a 3-step mental model of marketing for a long time. Stimulus, like developing a TV ad. Shelf, focusing on point of sale, which has historically been called the first moment of truth. And experience. People take the product home and experience it. They could have a good experience or a bad experience, and they share it. This is the second moment of truth. If marketers spend time on these 3 steps, they should succeed, right? We investigated this theory. We conducted a comprehensive study with research partner Shopper Sciences using 5,000 shoppers across 12 categories, from groceries to cars and financial products. The goal, show where influence takes place as shoppers move from undecided to decided. We found that the average shopper used 10.4 sources of information, up from 5.3 sources in 2010. We asked shoppers what sources they used to make decisions, when they used it, and how influential is each source. When we lined up their responses, a 4th step appeared in the marketing mental model, the 0 moment of truth. This is when consumers do their research, get smart about alternatives, read reviews, look for coupons and comparison shop, all before going to the shelf. When we compare the steps, the 0 moment of truth pops up as highly relevant and influential. Consumers have changed the way they have approached decision-making. As a marketer, Have you kept up, or are you still using the old mental model? There's a new mental model now, and marketers that can now keep all these steps spinning gain a very competitive advantage in today's marketplace.
Oh, stop.
Marketers have been...
All right, hang on. I'm just gonna have to escape out of this. Let's, okay, so what that video is actually talking about is this moment of truth theory. And it breaks down into these 5 stages. The first one is stimulus and awareness. And that stimulus and awareness phase is where the potential customer either becomes first aware of you or they're stimulated to take their first action in this particular sales process. So you're either making them aware of you or a particular product, or in this case, a particular circle or a particular benefit of the circle or a particular feature of the circle, or you are stimulating them to take action into that next phase. That 0 moment of truth is that research phase, and Google say that they think they invented this back in about 2010, 2011, or discovered this thing, but it's been known about for thousands of years. Okay, it is people. Whatever purchase process that you make, you will always go through that. It doesn't make you any special or not, but it doesn't matter which product, whether you're selling polo cars, polo shirts, polo ponies, or polo mints. You all go through that 0 moment of truth theory, and we'll touch on that a little bit later on. That first moment of truth is that first real commitment. So if you're selling a low ticket item, it's quite often where you might set your first moment of truth as the point where somebody actually makes a purchase. But it doesn't have to be that. It's depending on your customer journey. It may well be where they make their first commitment to you, where they actually give you their email address or download something from you or pick up the phone or whatever, or fill in a form on your website, whatever it may be. It's that point where you know that you have them into that next phase of the funnel. The second moment of truth is then follows on, funnily enough, from the first moment of truth. And that second moment of truth is the real experience that they actually felt and earned and came away with. Now, bearing in mind that your funnel, the particular funnel that you're working with, might finish on the fact after they've made their first booking or downloaded their first thing. So that second moment of truth applies to that process that they have gone through up to this point. It doesn't necessarily mean that the whole the process of how they enjoyed the product. However, if you're looking at the product life cycle in its entirety, that second moment of truth might well be the experience of the product. So we're going back to our polo mints and polo cars. If you're talking about your polo mints, the real experience might be of, was it easy to buy? And then when they opened up the packet and they put the polo mint in their mouth, did they get the taste and the feeling of refreshment that they were hoping to get and that they remembered as a child? And that second moment of truth might last a minute or 2 minutes, or if they decided to chomp their way through the polo mint, then it might have lasted 30 seconds. However, if you're buying a polo car, it might last 3 or 4 years for the length of the time that you own the car. So all after sales servicing for new cars, for example, all that sort of stuff falls into the second moment of truth. And it can be into a very extended period. And that ultimate moment of truth, which Google doesn't mention, and the reason why they didn't mention it, because that video was actually made based on what Shopper Sciences did in 2010, 2011, is the ultimate moment of truth. And that's what they tell their friends. And you can see where we're going with this one. Now it is the ultimate moment of truth is extremely powerful, and we'll touch on that in a second. But just bear in mind that it is so much easier to give a negative referral or a negative response to or opinion on you or your product for one very simple reason, and it's known as social proof. So if Shane asks me and says, Guy, you have a nice Lexus, do you think I should buy one too? If I say to Shane, yes, you should go and buy one too, and he buys one and spends a huge amount of money on it, and then it doesn't work out so well for him, I feel that Shane, although he's a very nice fella, he might well come back and blame me subconsciously. Yeah, don't shake your head. blame me for giving him bad advice. Okay. So, but if I say, oh yeah, mine's great, but haven't heard good things, then that's get out of jail for me, because if Shane buys it and has a good experience, he'll come back and say, oh, actually, I had a good experience with that, but bad luck, guy. I'm sorry you had a bad one, or whatever you heard mustn't have been true, but my experience is great. But either way, I've helped him out, but I haven't put anything at risk. If, however, he buys it or he doesn't buy it, and he goes and buys a Ford instead, and he has a very good experience with his Ford, he comes back and says, oh, thanks for helping me dodge the bullet on that one. Okay, so at which point I have given him good, as far as he's concerned, given him good advice because he's dodged the bullet on it. So whether he's actually tried the product or not, he still feels he's dodged the bullet. So as a consequence, it is so much easier to give a negative review than it is a positive review. So, as I say, is this anything new? No, it's not. Humans are the same. It's just the media has changed. So when we're talking about the ultimate moment of truth, it's back in the day, it would have been known as word of mouth. In fact, it still is quite often word of mouth, but now we can transfer or broadcast that ultimate moment of truth by what we do in social media. So we're going to try a little exercise here, and we're going to build a marketing framework right here on screen for this very lesson for your fantastic concentration. So we've got a hero product here. This is a product local to Northern Ireland called PizzaDo, and essentially it's a frozen pizza kit that you can take home and make your fantastic pizzas with. We also have our hero personas. You might have seen Debs prior. She occurs in a number of personas that I work with. That's just not that I change her or change her name. She is the same person. She also just happens to be a finance director in my mind of a light engineering company based near Peterborough. But there you go. But in this case, it's the same Debs, but she, in this case, we're looking at her as a mother of Sally and John Jr. And if you, I think that's probably, I think I've already shared her persona last week. If not, I will share it again. You can read a lot more about her. So what we're going to do is we're going to build this Debs' customer journey. One thing that we didn't touch on beforehand is the value proposition, and I will probably include that in later cohorts. But just take it from me that the value proposition for PizzaDo is tasty, nutritious, and fun. Keep it nice and short and simple as much as we can. So in this customer journey, we start off and we're just going to write down the actions that actually happen in this customer journey. So the actions start off with Debs being a Northern Ireland mum, or well, yes, in this case she is Northern Ireland, or part of a relaxing couple. And then her next phase is actually when she gets into the research phase, she's going to go online. And she's going to look at our competitors' website and she's going to bounce in and around Facebook and Twitter while she does her research, and she could touch on any one of these at any one time. And then when she arrives in store, because this product can only actually be bought in store, then in fact actually she then looks at competitive pizza products or other frozen products, and from there she's made a decision. She's decided to make her in-store purchase. When she gets home, she has to defrost it. Then she has to do the preparation. So she's defrosted it, and she has to roll out all the dough, and then put the sauce on top, and then add the ingredients, throw the mozzarella, and then cook it in the oven. And then she has to enjoy the eating of the whole thing. And then, of course, they're going to clear up. And believe me, PizzaDo, it's fun with kids, but it's really, really messy. There's flour everywhere. Okay. But, and then once she's cleared up, we want her to share the news and that ultimate moment of truth. So what we can do is then apply where we think those break lines are between the stimulus and awareness and the zero moment of truth, and the first moment of truth, second moment of truth, and ultimate moment of truth, of course. Now, when you do this either on your white wall with Post-its, or when you do it in PowerPoint, as I've done here, just bear in mind that it's entirely up to you where you set the borders between each phase, okay? But do pick a specific phase where you, in your head or in your planning, they are moving from one phase to the next phase, to the next phase, to the next phase, to the next phase. But it's up to you to set where that may be, okay? So you might put down In this case, a first moment of truth might be actually not actually when she makes the purchase, but when she actually puts it in her basket. Okay, or when she tells her husband John to go and get it and put it in a basket, or whatever it may be. Okay, but that point is where you decide when you're moving from phase to phase. Now, when she goes from phase to phase, she has a different need in each phase. Now, this is really, really important. It's really important to get the actions down as well, but it's also really important to understand that the needs change, her needs change in each phase. So initially in that very top phase, when we're in that stimulus and awareness phase, she has a general need to feed her kids. And she may have another general need in this case of she likes to do something different but simple. Okay, so it's not the same old egg and chips that she's giving the kids every night. And I'm sorry I keep saying the kids. It could be John who's doing it as well when he comes home from work or whatever. But but once she has made the decision that she's going to do research, when she gets into the research, her needs have changed again. Now she's getting more detailed in her needs. Now she's more interested in this particular case. She is more interested in the taste of the product. Is it nutritious? Is it easy and fun to do? Is it good value? Is it free from? All these sorts of things. Now, bearing in mind, you put these needs in after you've put those those blue lines that determine the difference or the break point between one phase to the next. Okay. Moving on again, when she gets that first moment of truth, when she's actually in store and she's making the purchase, now again, her needs have changed again. To make that final purchase decision, in this case, she's more interested in taste, she's more interested in the value, and that doesn't mean just because they appear above, doesn't mean to say they can't appear in here. But in this case particularly, the kids are probably nagging her, and it needs to be easy to grab and easy to find, okay? It might also be that, in fact, actually price might fall into this particular case, but when you've read Deb's persona, you'll know that you will see that actually price isn't going to be too much of an issue for her. Value is very important to her. But quite often, people will identify price as that last point to get them across the line. If you're talking about selling cars and stuff, you might put in here the ability, the ways to pay. They may, or you might have the final decision being what's the best finance deal they can get in, or what would be the trade-in they could get for their old car, all that sort of stuff. Okay, those final things that get them across the line to make a purchase. When we get into that second moment of truth, in this case, when we get back, when Debs actually gets it home and unpacks it and puts it in the freezer, but when she decides that she's going to eat it, in fact, actually, when we went through this exercise originally back in 2014, I think it was, or 2015, one of the things that came out, in fact, it might have been earlier than that, one of the things that came out was the defrosting. It couldn't be defrosted in the microwave because the dough had to rise properly and all that sort of stuff. And so that's why actually we applied this big thing over here on the defrost side of it, going because it needed 4 or 5 hours to defrost, and that became a problem. But we wouldn't really have noted that quite early. And we actually solved that once we'd identified it. We solved it by using fridge magnets and all that sort of stuff and putting it in stuff in the product. But anyway, I'll come on to that in a second. But in this case, you'll see that Deb's needs has changed again. It needs to be easy. She needs ingredients. Yes, it has the basic ingredients of pepperami and whatever. But actually, the nice things of this product is that you can open the fridge and chuck whatever leftovers you've got in on top of it. So you need further ingredients. The kids need to enjoy it. It needs to taste great, and it needs to be worth the effort. And then finally, in that ultimate moment of truth, she needs to feel that was great. And in fact, for her to feel that was great, the kids need to feel that was great and that it tasted good and all the other stuff. Okay. So once we've identified the needs, then our messaging has to change in each phase. Okay. So here in this particular case, at the top, she has a need to feed the kids. And she's something different but simple and different but simple. And now I see that we probably should have changed that messaging to it's food that's great fun, that's great, that is easy, educating, and fun, and food just how you like it, or pizza just like you like it at home. Okay, but moving into that 0 moment of truth, it is she has a need for taste. So we answered that is just how you like it. Is it nutritious? Yes, it's all natural. Is it easy and educating and fun? Yes, it is easy, educating, and fun. What other value is? Well, actually, being able to clear the fridge of leftovers is actually is part of the value proposition, because you can do all of this and you're making use of all the foodstuffs that you have left over, etc. And you can see that as you move through each of these phases, the messaging needs to change. So, for example, when you're selling cars, you usually find when you're selling cars that, in fact, if you watch TV ads, maybe not so much the case these days, but you used to have a 30-second ad, which is all about, oh, wonderful car, look, it's all lovely and comfortable, and doesn't it look nice and shiny driving through these Welsh mountains, or whatever it may be, okay? And then it goes on to other ads and all that sort of stuff. And then you get a 10-second bumper, or a 10-second ad just before the end of the ad break, which says, buy this car, get 0% finance, or buy this car, etc. So what they're actually doing is that they're automatically assuming that they've stimulated and made you aware in that first 30-second ad, but actually they're helping you into that 0 moment of truth by because they know your very next question is likely, how am I going to be able to pay for it, or can I get finance on it, etc. But the key thing is you don't deliver two messages at the same time. Give one message in each piece of communication. And when we're talking about messaging here, these aren't the actual words that you might use in an ad. They may be the exact words that you use in an ad, but we're just talking about the message here, the message that you want to get across. This is not fully text or copywritten or text written by a copywriter. And the final part of this phase is, what media is this going to be conducted in? Now, when we say media in this case, we generally mean it in old Latin terms, and it is simply the communication way that we do it. So media does not necessarily have to be standard above the line media, such as TV, radio, posters, all that sort of stuff. Media can be leaflets that you use, either in door drops or on when you stick under people's windscreen wipers. It could be word of mouth. It is just anywhere that conversation can be started or can take place. So in this particular case, we're talking about word of mouth with other mums, word of mouth with other kids, Facebook news feeds and shares, and Facebook news feed in our sponsored posts, etc. And then we move into the next phase, and you'll find the media has changed again. Okay. So actually, we're now into the first place in this particular case. He's probably going to do a search. She's going to end up is our website. She's probably going to end up in our Facebook, okay, which is not the same as Facebook sponsored posts. It is our Facebook organic newsfeed. And she's probably going to search for us in Google. She's likely to watch YouTube or look for us on YouTube, bearing in mind that YouTube is the second largest search engine on the planet. And then she'll do review sites and retailer sites and all that sort of stuff. Moving into, in this particular example, is that first moment of truth when we're actually in store. So what are we going to use there as media? Well, in this particular case, we're going to use lots of point of sale, such as trays, buckets, bins, point of sale, trays, buckets, and bins, aisle signage. We might even have a taste team in there around handing them out. And just because they're human beings, the taste team, they're still the media that we're conveying that message in. And then in that second moment of truth, when she's actually got it open and is in there, they're starting to do the preparation, our media there is the packaging, because that's what's going to be in front of her, that we have some form of control over. But we also know that she's likely to be in the kitchen. So now in these days, you might even start thinking about doing something with Alexa and voice-activated tools at this stage. So if somebody says, asks the questions of, how do I defrost pizza do, Alexa, how do I defrost pizza do? Then in fact, it automatically takes them to something that we know they're going to be in the kitchen and asking that question, or we think they were going to be. And then that ultimate moment of truth, where is that conversation going to occur? Well, in particular, it is going to be newsfeed, Facebook newsfeed. It is going to be through their shares, through our Facebook newsfeed and our shares. And you'll see that you can see that this was done in 2013 and 2014 because there's no mention of Instagram there, but she'd definitely be a candidate for that, and so on. But the point being is that you work your way through that media column and understand what media you're going to use. Now, immediately, straight away, once you've done this exercise, you can start seeing how useful it can be. So if somebody says to me, do you think I should be using Facebook? I go, I don't know. Show me your marketing framework, and I not only will I tell you, but you'll know already because you'll have worked it out yourself. Okay. What content should I put on my website? Or what content should I put on my landing pages on my website? You can see straight away that in this, when Debs comes to your website, this is the content, the questions, the needs that she has. So those are the ones that she should be answering. So if you have attracted Debs with an ad that's in Facebook that says pizza at home that is tasty, nutritious, and fun, or easy, educating, and fun, and to learn more, click here. The landing page should then be on talking about answering their needs. So of taste, nutritious, easy and fun, value and free from. And the messaging therefore you're putting on those landing pages is just how you like it. It's all natural. It's easy, educating, fun, and clear the fridge of leftovers. And that's what's going to be, So what you're doing is you're using the our message column to determine what content goes on what media, which is defined by the media column. Okay, all right. So you end up with something like we've just seen there. Now, the thing to remember is that time spent in each phase will vary. So when we're talking about the difference in polo mints and polo cars and polo ponies, etc., of course, time spent in the stimulus awareness phase of polo mints when they're stood in the queue at the petrol station, gas station, is going to be seconds long. And when they're the same with the zero moment of truth phase, am I going to have tree board meats or am I going to have polo mints? How much are they? Okay, I'll buy them. I'll add them into the basket, and it's over like that. However, if you're buying polo cars, that whole phase is probably going to be weeks long. Okay. And the second thing to remember is that customers will not miss out a phase in the process. They may spend a very, very short time in the phase, but they will spend time there. So again, just going back to that zero moment of truth phase, again, most people say, oh, there's no zero moment of truth in buying polo mints. There is. How much is it? Am I going to have something else instead? And then that's it over in that particular case. All right. I'm going to come back to that second. Right. The last thing I just want to touch on, I'm just going to go back here just one more time. You'll see these blue arrows that are moving through. This is the general direction that they travel all the way through. Now, the really interesting point that I want to, well, it's all really interesting because I live and breathe this stuff. But what you should note is this arrow here going from left to right, attaching to these arrows on the right-hand side, going up and sharing back in the zero moment of truth and in that stimulus and awareness truth. Because what that is indicating is that when you share good news with somebody, what you're actually doing is either making somebody aware of the product or the tool that you're talking about, or you're stimulating them to go and do more search. But even better, actually, because it's come with a positive referral, you personally, or that message is probably taking that person that you're talking to through that zero moment of truth. I think you should buy, I'm thinking of buying, or I'm saying to Shane, I bought a Lexus, it's really good. And he goes, oh, it's really good. And he may not go straight to buy one, but he's probably taken them through a long way through that process of the decision-making process, because of course he trusts every single word that I say. So in fact, actually, I don't have to do that whole thing of him checking out the website and the Facebook, Twitter, or whatever it may be. I'm actually delivering him right up to that first point of truth, or try buying Lexus. I bought it off Hearst in Belfast. You should go and talk to John. He'll really help you out. And so, in fact, actually, I have, on behalf of Hearst, delivered that person to their door in a mode that he's almost ready to buy. We have taken him through the stimulus and awareness phase and nearly all the way through the zero moment of truth phase. Why is that important? Because this bit, the media bit that you're talking about there, is usually the most expensive bits are that stimulus and awareness phase and that zero moment of truth phase. Okay, this is media that you're going to, most of the time when you're buying media, you're buying media space for that stimulus and awareness phase. And then you're building those tools to help people through that research phase. You're building the website, you're putting all that content out in the Facebook, and you're making sure that you're SEO'd up to the hilt. You're producing YouTube videos, the whole thing. Okay, so in most cases, the big part of the marketing spend naturally falls into those stimulus and awareness phase and the zero moment of truth phase. So if you can get one share that delivers somebody right in here, you've just saved yourself a bucket load of money. So if anybody ever asks you why is social media so important for marketers, that's why. Okay, so now, actually, one other thing I might just go back through as well. When we get to the next phase of this process in lesson 3 of 3 that which we're going to do next week, what we're going to do is we're going to build a media plan, and we're going to take this right-hand column, and that will then start using to help start building your media plan, your launch plan, and then potential some sales forecasts going forward. Which the reason why I'm saying that is because I'm now setting you your weekly challenge, which is to create your first marketing framework. As I said, build it for one customer persona. It might be easier to do it in Post-its first, and then use the swipe files that will be attached on this. And then once, if you have used Post-it notes, then put it into some form of electronic format, and then share the work by creating a post in the course newsfeed. Okay. If you take nothing away from any of these 3 lessons, or there's one lesson that you should remember that we're doing in these 3 in the Apollo course, this is the one. Okay. If you really want to understand how to sort out in your head the media and the messaging that you're going to use to entice people or engage people in your circles, or bringing new people into your circles is what I mean, then these 2 bits here in that stimulus awareness phase and that first moment of truth phase are going to be the really important bits. You'll find that your second moment of truth bit is filled largely from the experience that people are already getting in your circle. So the reason why we don't take newbies through this process in detail is because they won't have a really good idea of the second moment of truth that they're delivering until they have actually got a circle up and running. Okay, so that's it. Anybody got any questions that they'd like to jump into now? No? Oh, you're all very quiet. You're all very quiet when the recording's on. I know as soon as I turn it off, the phone lines will light up. Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to stop sharing, and then I am going to stop the recording. Thank you very much. Welcome to lesson 2 of 3. Bye.